Welcome to the Speed City F1 pre-race show on ESPN Extra on SiriusXM with Jon Massengale, Jonathan Green, Bob Varsha, and Chris Medland live from the circuit. Speed City, America's voice of Formula One.
Good morning, gearheads, and welcome to the Speed City F1 pre-race show for the 11th round of the 2025 Formula One season, with the Austrian Grand Prix just 1 hour away. I hope you have yourself a fresh, hot cup of coffee as we try to paint the picture of one of the most picturesque venues on the F1 calendar. This is Jon Massengale. I'm the gentleman driver of the team, if you will, but not to worry. I am joined by the professionals. I'll be starting with my friend Bob Varsha, the man who needs no introduction to American Formula One fans, America's legendary voice of motorsport. Bob, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and good luck with painting the scene at Spielberg in Austria, because this is one of the most beautiful tracks on the circuit, perhaps comparable only to Spa-Francorchamps. It's an amazing place. It was where I hosted my very first Grand Prix on television way back in 1987, although it's in a much different state right now since it was revamped by the good folks at Red Bull. And going to be a hot day. I expect a lot of action. We had a lot of cars getting loose in the temperature conditions. Tires will be an issue. It's going to be an interesting show.
I didn't realize this was your very first broadcast, the place where you did that. That's fantastic. Yep. That's cool. What year was that? Do you recall?
1987. I got a call from ESPN.
Sorry.
Yeah. They said the regular host, Jackie Stewart, couldn't make it for some reason. And would I mind going to Austria? So I said, oh, heck yeah. I've done 24-hour races with over 200 drivers. What's a 90-minute race with 26 guys in it? And then we had two red flags. It was about an hour before, or even more than that, about 2 hours before we actually saw a complete green flag lap. So I emptied the bucket on my Formula One knowledge pretty darn quick. Fortunately, the third time was the charm. We got the race started, and Nigel Mansell won it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a heck of a way to start, Bob, having to talk for a long time without racing.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I had Chris Economaki at my elbow, and Chris can go on forever about nothing, which was very useful in the circumstances.
Well, I'm going to do something we haven't been doing lately. I'm going to give out the phone number just in case. We'll not guarantee we're going to be able to take every call, but we may give it a shot. And because we do this for you guys, you the fans, and we welcome your calls throughout the show. The number, if you want to write it down, is 512-643-5483. 512-643-LIVE. Jonathan Green and Chris Medland are going to be joining us here in just a few minutes as we get you guys ready. But Bob, I am going to spend a minute, and then we'll get Chris to talk about it being live there. But you mentioned how picturesque, and I did too. But man, it is just so gorgeous. I love. We have a photographer, a team that we get photos from for every race. We get to choose them for social media and to use on YouTube, and they are incredibly hard to pick from because there's so many fantastic, wonderful views out at Spielberg. But speaking of views, I see that Chris Medland has joined us out there. Chris, how are you, buddy?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, team. How's everyone doing back in the US of A?
Doing good. It's nice and crisp and early here in Austin, Texas. And I think Bob is in Atlanta. And I don't know how it is there, Bob, but it's going to be hot in Austin today. But I'm sure Atlanta's going to be warm, too.
It'll be warm for sure. Might not break 90, but with the humidity, what difference does it make? I went for a walk yesterday afternoon, got 1 mile in, and then was trapped at a Starbucks by a humongous thunderstorm. One of the biggest I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I wish we had another storm. We need some more rain. Chris, what's the weather like out there?
Roasting. Absolutely roasting. Sunny, hot. It's been gorgeous all day, actually. We had thunderstorms on Thursday and Thursday night here, but that kind of cleared through the worst of the weather, and then we've just had hot sunny days for most of the time. So it's going to be a tired leg race, I think, in that sense. I've been looking at the Pirelli strategy guides, and we're looking at a two-stopper, which I think is likely because those rear tyres, if they go off when you're trying to get traction out of those low-speed corners. You're a sitting duck on these long straights, so you can't really just park it and do a one-stop if you're struggling with your tires.
Well, I looked it up, Chris. 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That is pretty hot for Formula One, isn't it? We don't see temperatures in the 30s very often.
No, certainly not in the European races. We get a few, and we certainly get them in the Middle East as well. But quite often, the Middle Eastern races then take place at sunset or after dark, and you get that kind of drop off. And the difference here is, in the sun, it really is really warm. So I don't think it's going to be an issue as such. It just means that tires don't have it easy. And if you're, say, Mercedes and worry about not being able to perform so well in the heat, then you could be facing a tough race. Whereas any team that thinks they've got an advantage in the heat, generally been McLaren, hasn't it, with their tyre usage, then you're probably smiling that the cloud cover is kind of broken. There's enough clouds, but it's not enough that's keeping the sun off. And if it was clouded over, that would probably help someone like Mercedes a bit more.
Yeah, I know that they always struggle with temperatures when they rise. But Bob, you said something earlier about how this race, we've seen some action and we've seen a few spins. I think we must have set a record for the most number of spins without anyone stopping, without anyone hitting a wall, without Gasly, I guess, was the worst of them, and he did a 720, a pair of 360s.
Yeah, he went twice around, wound up pointing in absolutely the right direction, but by then the damage was done. It brought out the yellow flag, and that ruined the laps for the two drivers behind him, one of whom was Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, who was on his final hot lap and might have taken pole, but for that problem. I think Max Verstappen also backed out, which was weird because he was ahead of the yellow flag, but for whatever reason, Oscar starts third, Max starts seventh, and off we go.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, I heard your mic lighting up. What's going on all around you there, buddy?
That was just me making my way through a tunnel or a corridor, essentially, out into the pit lane. So I've got myself into the pit lane, ready to go on the grid. I thought I'd try and get through here earlier today. Grid will open the pit lane will open in about 10 minutes' time. So I can have a little wander up and down and have a look in some garages and see if any work's going on. But sometimes, just to put you in my shoes, I stay on the paddock side and walk up and down there and see if I can get any interviews before past, because that's the point that the pit lane will then close and the cars will have gone out to the grid, and I can then cross it again. But you have this 10-minute window where the cars are leaving their garages going to the grid that you're not allowed to be in the pit lane. So you have to either be on the grid already or you have to stay in the paddock. So I've made the early call today because there's also a bit of shade from the main grandstand when I get onto the grid.
Well, hey, hold on, guys, because I put out a call for calls, and we do have a caller on the line. We have a regular. We got Corvette Mike on line one. Corvette Mike, how are you, buddy?
I am great, you guys. I shouldn't be this good, and it's Corvette Mike retired now. You've got.
Oh, that's right. We got to add in retired now. That's right. He's not driving anymore.
I did not get to drive the Zora. My feelings are hurt.
Oh.
Yeah. This is what I want. I felt like I owed it to you guys. I've got a son in Jacksonville, and I got up at 4 a.m. East Coast. I am in Jacksonville, sitting in the Cinemark Theater Drive.
Oh, wonderful.
With the D-box seats, front row centered for he and I to watch the Brad Pitt F1 movie. Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, well, it's called the F1 movie. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
F1 the movie, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Mike. That is great. What time's your movie?
It's 8:30 a.m. East Coast. So I'm going to miss the red light, green light, but I can give a full report on the post show.
There you go. There you go. That's fantastic.
Wow. You're going to miss the entire race. You know that's a 2 hour half.
It's 2.5
5-minute movie.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna. It's gonna be a saddened thing, but at times Medland didn't make the grid either.
True. I must say, actually, Corvette Mike as well. I'm tempting fate today. I'm going to tell everyone it's going to be a really boring race. You're going to miss nothing. Don't worry about it. Because whenever I say it's going to be great, nothing happens. And when I don't say that, something happens. So, you picked a good one to miss.
Now I feel bad.
Oh, that's
You
great.
guys have a great show. I love what you do. I know Jonathan and Mr. Varsha struggled yesterday, but they're troopers. They've been in the business, and it was a great show anyway. I just failed to mention it.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Enjoy the
thank you,
show.
Mike.
I've seen it, and you will not be disappointed.
Well, actually, Trevor has already seen it once this week and then told me, he said, I wouldn't go see it unless I could do D-Box. And I said, what is D-Box? And now I had to drive the day of. I had to reserve the place. He's going again.
That's
See you
great.
guys later.
Okay,
Wow.
Mike.
Have a good
Thanks,
morning.
buddy.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that's great.
That's commitment. I heard as of yesterday, it had made $140 million worldwide in general release, which is pretty phenomenal.
That's a massive number. Was actually that headline was F1 gears up with $140 million opening weekend with massive records at stake. I mean, apparently it could be the biggest Brad Pitt movie opening ever. There's all sorts of records it could break.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. I went and saw it. What day was that? Friday at 3:15 in the afternoon, and there was like 10 people in the theater.
Really?
So I was concerned about what it might be like on its opening week and what it might earn. But apparently the numbers worldwide have been pretty gigantic.
Well, Jonathan and I went and saw it last Monday night, and it was packed. In fact, when I bought tickets like 3 weeks before that. It was a special screening, and I got the very last tickets in the entire theater, and they were horrible seats. And thank goodness there was a couple of seats. I think they may have been like handicapped or something, but no one took them. They were a little bit better, and we sat in those. But everybody was there with their team kit on, hats and shirts, and the enthusiasm was palpable for sure.
That's good.
It was really exciting.
That's a relief.
And Jonathan and I were just
way.
giggling at every time we saw like Gunther Steiner pop up. We were just laughing.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah, should have told Corvette Mike to make a list of all the people he recognizes in the movie because they're pretty much all there.
It's
and
true.
140 million is just enough to run a Formula One team for one season.
There you go. Hey, Chris, what's going on, buddy?
I've made a mistake, guys. I should not come onto the grid so early. I'm just cooking. That's what's happening. So the pit lane's still not open. The drivers are just getting into their cars now, actually. But the grid's getting busier because the way it works, obviously, the teams come out with their setups of their generators and their tires. Quite often it'll be the race tires are already in the blankets on the grid, ready to go. And what the tires that they use for their reconnaissance laps are ones that they've used already in the weekend. So they're just getting a feel for the track without putting any life into the tires they're going to race on. And you get all of this equipment here, so that adds heat to it. I can actually see, I'm stood by Alpine right now. I'm at Pierre Gasly's grid slot, and who's starting, it says P10. Is that right? Well done, Pierre. I missed that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He just didn't do a clean lap, did he, with his spin? But he did make it into Q3. And so here they've got another trolley beyond the generator that has a load of equipment in it and a load of toolboxes like trays that are named and numbered. Then the tires are stacked up next to that on the same trolley. Then they have a middle trolley that is team branded, and it's where they'll put their laptops on top to monitor the car. A lot of the cables that plug into the car are already lying across the grid slot without the car being here yet. So there's this middle workstation that they'll go and place themselves at. And that has two shelves underneath as well, where they can just store things. So at the moment, there's just like a little wheel gun holder, but nothing else. It's bare. But they'll put stuff on when the car gets here. And then they've got a final long trolley. It's the sort of thing that you would see at like a warehouse. If you went to a warehouse store and you wanted to get some big building materials, it's like one of those kind of length. There's another generator on that, and then two boxes that are like keep cool boxes full of ice. And there's actually an ice trowel that one of the mechanics is here with already, ready to spoon dry ice into two dry ice holders that are then going to get put in the car when it arrives on the grid. So all this stuff gets laid out beforehand. There's loads of it. And when they do that, it just creates a load of heat. So if you stand too near it, then you're just going to get absolutely roasting. So I'm trying to find a cool spot here on the grid. I've just been overtaken by the Sky Sports team, and they've got umbrellas for the sun. That's the way to do it.
Get your elbows out, Chris.
Definitely.
Well, steal an umbrella off them. I don't think that'll go down well with my wife at all. But this is how hot it is, though. Even Aston Martin here at Fernando Alonso's station, right across from Pierre Gasly, so starting P11. They've got the umbrella ready for Alonso when he gets out the car, but the mechanics are using it to shade themselves right now. That's how warm it is here on the grid. And obviously these guys are in fireproof overalls and things. So yeah, it's toasty.
Huh. Yeah, well, hopefully you'll be able to get shade at times, Chris, because I know it's blistering. I'm looking at the weather forecast. It may even get even warmer on you. You never know. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead.
And it's worst on the pavement.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get a quick break in, and we'll be back right after these messages. All right, let's check in with the YouTubers. I don't even have YouTube open. That's going to be hard if I don't open it up. Here, let's see what's going on. Thanks to Corvette Mike for calling in. That was cool. Love the fact that he's going to the show. All right. There's one of those pictures that I was talking about. All right, Mike Bowles was here. Now he's sitting in the parking lot. There's Kevin Kelly, T&W, all the regulars here. All right. Kevin Kelly says my heart rate is 49 beats. Wonder if I'm excited. That doesn't sound exciting.
49? You're comatose.
Kevin's
149.
Yeah, maybe you meant 149 exactly.
Yeah, I would think. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Kevin Kelly brought up a couple of points that we talked about, Bob, about the tow truck and Fred Vasseur, and we'll talk about those coming out of the break.
Yep.
And, Mike says he's got his pen and paper. That's good. I'm glad you did that, Mike. I was talking to the family. I'm going to try to get all 3 kids and my wife to go. We were going to try to go this afternoon, this evening, but we can't. We're trying to work around everybody's schedules. Probably go to my second showing, probably tomorrow. Chris, are we going to do Tuesday or Wednesday on Wheel to Wheel? Or do you not know yet? Oh, he's got me muted, I think.
I hear him.
Oh, we got Greenie on Zoom. That's weird.
Hello.
Hey, what's happening?
Sorry, drama.
Drama, what's happening?
Right.
Oh, don't ask.
JG's been having trouble with audio this weekend.
Is it all right now?
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Sounds pretty good now. What's happening?
Not much. I've got a fire alarm going off and I can't switch it off, and my phone died, so I apologize.
Oh. And you've got the wrong sport in the background.
All right, coming up. Hang on, caller.
But it may be
All
the
right,
best
here-
car in the world right now.
Here we
that you're
go.
picturing.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only get to pick 2. What if you could have all 3 at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and the Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud platform built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, guys, it looks like we're about 40 minutes from the Formula One Austrian Grand Prix. It's Jon Massengale, joined by Bob Varsha and Chris Medland. And Jonathan Green has joined us, and he is joining us from his home studio. He's having some technical difficulties getting to the studio, but Johnny Green, how are you, buddy?
All right, generally speaking.
Generally
How are you?
speaking. Okay, good deal. Well, let's check in with Chris, Jonathan. We've been talking about how hot it is. And Chris, I'm looking at the television, and I don't see much hope for shade right now. There's a few clouds, but man, it looks warm. Everybody that I can see looks like they're dodging for cover. All right. Well, I see Chris's mic moving, but we can't hear him.
I hear him.
Oh,
I hear him.
okay. Sorry. Oh, Casey's taking a call. That's what's going on. So I'm not sure the crowd the audience can hear him, but hey, Casey, we got Medland. Is Medland
Yep.
Okay. I'm just not able to hear him.
Yeah. Well, he was talking about the one covered grandstand and how everybody wishes they were in it. I'm sure the crowd is well lubricated. This is Austria.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe
Casey's,
hydrated is a better word.
yeah, there you go. Well, that's actually probably the opposite of hydrated. All right, Chris, now we got you, buddy. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. I'll let you off, John. I'm always the one who's late to the party anyway. But it was just saying that right at this second, a cloud has just come over that has made it glorious on the grid. We've got a bit of shade as the pit lane is open. And I wanted to actually talk about the undulations and the elevation at this track because I'm stood behind Charles Leclerc's pit box, so P2, looking up to turn 1. And it's such a steep climb. Everyone talks about turn 3, but turn 1 is a very steep climb still. And you can see the cars climbing up out of the pit lane right now. It's a really steep gradient. I'm told it's around the 10 to 12% mark, but then even higher up to turn 3. But it means that even at the start, even off the line, when you're attacking turn 1, you can hit the brakes late because you're helped by gravity, essentially. Like that incline helps you get the car stopped more quickly. Strangely, that kind of entices drivers to take a little bit more risk of how far and how late they hit the brakes, which then leads to people going wide and making mistakes. It's quite interesting the way it plays out. So I think we're in for an interesting start today because, as I say, I've stood from behind Charles Leclerc's pit box, and the Ferrari race pace was pretty good on Friday. It was pretty close to what McLaren was able to do. So despite how good Lando was in qualifying and the huge margin he had over one lap over everybody in qualifying, in race trim, if Leclerc can get a better launch and get down the inside and take the lead at turn 1, he could be quick enough to really annoy McLaren today.
Which side of the track are the even-numbered starters starting from?
They're on the inside. So
driver's right.
Yeah, driver's right. So the way that they tend to try and do it with the grid is it's what's on the racing line because that will have the best grip. So pole position and the odd numbers on the left-hand side of the track as you are looking towards turn 1. But that is the outside of turn 1. But it's because that's where cars always run when they're just doing a normal lap. They're running on that left-hand side, so they're cleaning that up and laying down rubber. What's interesting for this weekend, though, is I don't think we'll see a big difference in grip off the line because we've had a number of support races. They've managed to get them all in despite a few incidents and delays. So we've had Formula 3, Formula 2 and Porsches. We've had no rain since Thursday. So a lot of rubber has been laid down. And actually, as I look at it, if I turn around and look at Lewis Hamilton's grid spot at P4, you can see the lines of rubber. And actually, they get bigger the further back you go. So if you go back to about 12th on the grids, you've got some really dark lines of rubber that have been well laid down from this weekend. And I think that even on the inside, on the dirty side of the grid as it is, you should get a good launch.
Yeah, I want to look for those. What do they do? 0 to 200 kilometer stats on F1 TV. I want to see that and see how that turns out. But go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking, it's just like a drag race where they do a big burnout and lay down streaks of hot rubber, and that'll make the start even more interesting here.
Yeah, well, like drag racing, what they actually do is they do that. They do that to heat the tires more than anything, but they prep the track with some chemicals. So essentially, it's the same kind of thing. So yeah, that's interesting. But hey, Bob and Chris, we're going to give something a try, a little different. We're going to break tradition, and we're going to see if Bob Varsha can get through his grid in the second segment.
No, don't be ridiculous.
Instead of the third segment. But I think that's just going to change everything up, Bob. I think people are going to start rushing towards Chris to talk on his microphone so they can interrupt you.
Well, it's like what you said earlier, John, about, or I mean, what Chris said about if I say it's going to be an exciting race, it won't be. If I don't say anything, it will be. So since you said Chris won't be interrupting me, you know what's going to happen. But anyway, here we go. All right. Row 1, P1, Lando Norris for McLaren, 12th career pole. And on this short lap that reduces gaps between cars to hundredths of a second, he actually laid a half second on his nearest challenger, the largest margin of the season so far for a pole winner. on one of the shortest tracks. Go figure. P2, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. A new floor designed to squeeze more downforce from the red cars didn't appear to matter all that much in practice, but in the hotter temperatures in qualifying, the cars came alive for the Scuderia. Row 2, P3, Oscar Piastri for McLaren. 22 points ahead in the championship. The Aussie lost his last-ditch bid for pole when the yellow flag came out ahead of him for a double spin by Pierre Gasly's Alpine. P4, Lewis Hamilton and the other Ferrari, just 900ths of a second off teammate Leclerc's time ahead of him. It's the best grid position of the season for the former pole sitter and race winner here. Watch Lewis at the start. Row 3, P5, George Russell for Mercedes. Coming off his first victory of the season 2 weeks ago in Canada, the mystery deepens as to why the Silver Arrows team leader has yet to sign a new contract for next season. P6, Liam Lawson for Racing Bulls. A huge step up for the Kiwi and his best start since Brazil 2024, his third career Grand Prix appearance. Row 4, P7, Max Verstappen for Red Bull. 21 points behind Norris for second place in the Drivers' Championship. Seventh is the Dutchman's worst grid slot since Bahrain, race 4 of this season. A win today, though, would be his 5th at the Red Bull Ring. P8, Gabriele Bortoleto for Sauber. Now for something entirely different. The Brazilian F2 champion and F1 rookie notched his first career Q3 appearance, and he winds up right next to the 4-time world champion and 5-time race winner here in Austria. Row 5, P9, Kimi Antonelli for Mercedes. Team boss Toto Wolff asked the press to back off on all their accolades about the 18-year-old, saying it raises expectations too high, puts too much pressure on the guy who, keep in mind, just finished his high school final exams. P10, Pierre Gasly for Alpine, who tried to explain his last corner pirouette that brought out the yellow flag and ended Q3 by saying he was just trying too hard. On the bright side, he says the gas man, it was a good lap, and he likes the pace in the car. Row 6, P11, Fernando Alonso for Aston Martin, ending a run of 4 straight Q3 appearances for the Spaniard, 16th in the championship, but only 13 points out of the top 10. P12, Alex Albon for Williams, just 77 thousandths of a second off Alonso's time, and less than a tenth and a half from advancing out of Q2. Row 7, P13, Isaac Hadjar for Racing Bulls. Only the second time in 11 races that the Frenchman has been outqualified by his teammate Liam Lawson, as the so-called B team from Austria-based Red Bull continues to battle the varsity. Tied on points coming in with the Haas team for 6th among constructors. The American team is leading on countback. P14, Franco Colapinto for Alpine, still without a championship point since replacing Jack Doohan 4 races ago in Imola. Row 8, P15, Oliver Behrman for Haas, just 24 thousandths of a second off of Colapinto's time, and just 2 points behind double world champion Alonso. P16, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin, just 17 thousandths behind Behrman. The Canadian eliminated in Q1 for the 8th time in 11 qualifying sessions thus far. Row 9, P17, Esteban Ocon for Haas. The roller coaster keeps on rolling for the Frenchman, knocked out in Q1 for the 6th time this year, to go along with 3 Q2 eliminations and 2 trips to the top 10 in Q3. P18 is Yuki Tsunoda, Red Bull, complaining of no front grip and the higher temperatures seen during qualifying. The Japanese driver failed to advance out of Q1 for the 2nd straight race. Row 10, P19, Carlos Sainz and Williams, out in Q1 for the 3rd race in a row for the first time in his career after a brake change before qualifying left him with a car that he says kept pulling to the right. Row 20, Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber. The last place team of the championship brought an update package from home base in Switzerland to what might be called their home race here in Austria. It worked for teammate Bortoleto, obviously, but not so much for the Hulk. And there it is, folks. On this historic occasion, the entire grid without the assistance of Chris Medland. Take it away. I'm going for coffee.
I so nearly, when you got to Carlos, I thought, so I wait to the final row and then just go, Bob, 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 and have nothing to interrupt you with. But I just thought, no, that will ruin radio, won't it? So I let it roll.
I'm not sure I like this. I don't know if we're going to be able to continue this. All right, well, guys, let's get a second break in real quick here, and we'll be back right after these messages. All right, we're still live on YouTube. Johnny Green, how are you, buddy? Just checking in.
I'm all right. I'm sorry, mate. My phone died, and now I've got a fire alarm going off, which is what actually woke me.
Oh God! Well, at least that happened. Well,
Is
you're
it still going off?
Yeah, I've got to go on. It's it's one of the battery goes, and it just keeps.
Oh, the
beeping.
chirp.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
Well, better to have a fire alarm and no fire than the opposite.
That's true.
Joe of Oyster Bay, all caps, says, "Holy crap!" with 3 exclamation points. I think he's referring to the fact that you made it through the entire grid, Bob. I think that's what he's doing.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I tried to hurry. I heard his mic open, or I heard some rustling in the background. I thought, oh no.
He timed it well. Carl's really just arriving on the grid now, so it was a time I couldn't get anyone anyway.
Well, it
The
worked
cars
out.
are there now?
Yeah, they've just arrived on the grid.
That was a long mosey around from the pits.
Yeah, McLaren's were first. They wanted to get here earlier, but I'm stood by Lawson hoping to get word with him in a bit, and he's only just getting out of his car.
Hey, Chris, I want to talk about Fred Vasseur. I've just seen the news. I don't know if you know any more than what's just the headline, just that he's not going to be there.
Yeah, he's gone home for personal reasons. I haven't actually asked for the personal reason.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where he's gone.
All right.
This is a pretty heavy responsibility for Jerome D'Ambrosio, who I knew as a Formula E driver.
Yeah. Well,
he's well prepped for it, though, I'd say.
Yeah, and he's a pretty circumspect guy. I'm sure he'll be mostly quiet.
Hey, Greeny, you missed it. Corvette Mike called in fresh and early and said he's sitting in the parking lot waiting on his son to show up to go see the F1 movie. It's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hi guys, this is Prix and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. We're 30 minutes from the start of the Formula One Austrian Grand Prix in Spielberg. And we had a little bit of breaking news overnight. Chris, you want to give us a story about Fred Vasseur not being on the pit wall today?
Yeah, it's not massively detailed, but there is the ident. Yeah, it's that Fred has had to return home for personal reasons overnight. So I admit we haven't really gone prying into what those may be, in the same way that GP, Max's race engineer, is also not here this weekend for personal reasons. We haven't gone digging into exactly what those might be, but yeah, it meant that Fred's had to go home, and Jerome D'Ambrosio will take on the role of team principal for this race. Now, Jerome has been working alongside Fred. They've been kind of splitting duties at times quite a lot this year since Jerome went there. So I'd say he's well prepared for that role. But yeah, it's just a last minute, unplanned change. And it'll be interesting to see if it influences anything. Normally it wouldn't. The way the race is playing out is going to be defined by race engineers and strategists. And it's more that the team principal's there if there's a desperate call that needs making last minute. So maybe team orders or just to speak to the media afterwards.
And that's interesting. Jerome D'Ambrosio was driving in Formula E and sports cars just a few seasons ago, and then he went to an executive role with the Venturi team in Formula E. Then he was at Toto Wolff's elbow in the Mercedes Formula One garage, and now here he is taking over for Fred Vasseur on this weekend, at least. And boy, he's had quite a meteoric rise.
Yeah, I don't think it gets any higher as far as this type of role, getting in the Ferrari hot seat, because it usually remains hot, as we saw last weekend or last race.
Yeah, well, when he drove back in the day, the mechanics reportedly called him custard because there's a British dessert pudding called ambrosia, and Jerome D'Ambrosio's name is similar, so the team would call him custard. I'm not sure anybody in a Ferrari shirt would dare do that this weekend.
I'm actually familiar with that. It's called a salad, actually, and I think
is it?
Yeah,
no, it's not. Ambrosio custard, it's definitely custard or yogurt.
Well,
it's sweet.
Yes, it is sweet, and it's almost a dessert-like, but they call it here in the South, maybe in Texas, they call it a salad. So who knows? But, all right, we're completely.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yes, we're completely off track now.
Just so you know, to add to the bizarrety, I've just watched Sky Sports walk to the first corner where they're watering the corner.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
First or last?
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, last corner.
I was going to say, yeah, we had fires on the outside of turn 10 that were caused by the two Ferrari drivers just running onto the grass on the exit of the corner during qualifying. So it was sparks that ignited what's very dry grass. I know we've done a lot of weather chat and how hot it is, but anyone who does see pictures, it's very brown, the grass, very dry.
That's hot.
And as a result of that, it's very easy for it to ignite. Now, we've not had an incident where sparks have bounced onto the grass and ignited it, but just an incident where a car's actually already been there. It's gone that far wide, and that's what's ignited it. So it's been, it's been a slight concern. They wanted it after qualifying or during qualifying, and they said they do it before the race as well, because obviously you're going to have all 20 cars heavily fueled at the start of the race, so more likely to be bottoming out and sparking, and that might be when all of them together could ignite a little bit. Now, you're all very smart at noticing when I'm waffling. And I'm doing some waffling right now. But I'm losing my battle. I'm trying to get to Jonathan Wheatley because I've seen both Gabriel Bortoletto and Liam Lawson walk off the grid to go to the bathroom and hide in the garages before they have to come back out for the anthem. And you know when you get a sense. So I've been told that with Bortoletto, we were going to speak to him pre-race. And then I got asked, can we make it post-race, please? Because he's feeling the pressure at the moment of doing a lot of media ahead of this start, his highest grid position. And I get it. As a rookie, like you suddenly think of maybe tempting fate, or you're just not used to it. But on the flip side, Lawson is, he's had results like this before, but he was very much in the zone. He wanted to know where the way off the grid was, but he didn't want to do an on-record interview. So I'm going to go for their bosses. They're the ones that maybe are a bit calmer at this time. So I'm in a queue.
Chris, while you're waffling, talk about how Lawson did this. How did he? This is amazing, really.
Yeah. Well, we know that the Racing Bull's car is easier to drive than the Red Bull that it's based on, arguably, and we know that both Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson are talented guys. So I don't know if Hadjar had a problem, but he's been a very good qualifier in that car, and now Liam Lawson got his opportunity too. It may have been a hole in traffic. I mean, who knows all the elements that go into a good qualifying run. But
I thought about Gasly's.
It's terrific for Lawson.
Gasly's double spin there could have helped. Chris, what do you think?
I feel like it's just a sign that if you get it right over a weekend, but then you need to build up to it. Like Hadjar did look a little slightly bit out of sorts at times earlier in practice. I was about to. I'm not going to lose a fight. I just won a fight. Thank you very much to Ariana Bravo, who's allowed me to go first with Lauren Meckies, the team principal of Racing Bulls. And Lauren, we're here by Liam Lawson's car, third row, ahead of Max Verstappen's car, the lead Red Bull-owned car on the grid at the Red Bull home race. How good a performance was that from Liam?
Obviously, Max's performance was conditioned by the yellow flag. So we don't look much at that, but what is clear is that it was an outstanding performance from Liam, outstanding performance from the team to get that high up on the grid. It's especially good considering all the hard work that has been put by Liam to get to know that car mid-season, to get to adapt to it, and to put such a strong performance. It was coming up. He was showing speed, maybe perhaps not altogether at the right time, but it's certainly what he has done so far this weekend. He was also strong in Monaco. He was strong in Barcelona, so it's nice to see him going up. They're pushing it sort of very hard with Isaac. And now let's see in the race. It's going to be a very long race.
They were just asking me that in the studio, actually, about the two of them and why maybe Isaac didn't have quite the same strength this weekend. Is it just because it's so competitive and this is one driver just getting it right a little bit more in qualifying?
Yeah, it was very, very tight. They had the same speed all weekend. Isaac's lap in Q1 was good enough for P8 on the grid, I think. So you can see how crazy tight that is. And you have these 4 or 5 qualifying runs and you have to extract the most of the car in each single situation and get there to nail your tire management, your tire preparations, and certainly we feel we could have done a better job collectively for Isaac in Q2. But it's the same for everyone up and down the pit lane, and as soon as you leave 1/10 on the table, you are suddenly out of contention.
Well, just very quickly, briefly, what's the target for today? What can you achieve? Certainly with Liam up here starting stick.
The most important for us is to try to defend on our midfield competitors. That's what we are focusing on. We are leading that back on the grid. We will have the free air to use the car pace. We'll try to make it stick to that and not to get too distracted by what the bigger guys are going to do around us.
All right, well, good luck. Thank you for your time.
Jonathan Green, hopefully Liam Lawson can cash in on this qualifying position, as I think that's the right word.
It's actually been quite interesting. As you know, I follow the New Zealand press and media about Liam. And obviously, it's pretty much dominated on the F1 pages with what Liam's up to. And he has been quite forthright, if you will, about his crisis of confidence. Everybody's saying that he lost confidence when he went to Red Bull, and then he's gradually building up. That's why he hasn't been as competitive as. And he refused. He completely denies that and says, "No, I never lost confidence. I'm rebuilding back into this car, and I just need it to all come together for the weekend." And so far, fingers crossed for him, it has this weekend. So he believes that this could be the weekend where he finally cracks it and he gets the most out of the RB that he feels he can.
Yeah, well,
I think he can too. And from that position, everybody already knows that he is a very aggressive racer, both attacking and defending. So he could have an interesting day, and a big double handful of points would do a lot if he were having a crisis of confidence.
Yeah, I agree.
No doubt. All right. Hey, Chris Medland, I've been wanting to ask you this question, and we've been so busy.
Good timing, John, but don't ask it yet, because I'm going to ask Jonathan Wheatley some questions. The team principal of Sauber. And Jonathan, we're here with Gabriel Bortoletto's car in P8. How impressive has his whole weekend been? He's looked quick throughout, and he delivered in qualifying.
Yeah, I think you have to look back to Barcelona and the upgrade on the car from the moment he had it from Saturday morning. Even the onboard video that I watched, I didn't need to look at the data. He had more and more confidence. And then we found ourselves last week at a circuit, 2 weeks ago in Montreal, circuit he hadn't driven at before. And now we're at circuits that he has driven. And as you say, I think he had a flawless build-up through the practice sessions into qualifying and absolutely delivered a brilliant qualifying session.
But now you're looking at more than just qualifying, aren't you? You're looking at race results. You've had points in back-to-back races. What can you achieve today with this car? Is it looking strong enough in race trim to stay in the top 8?
I think, first of all, as a team, we need to be flawless today. You look how close the competition is around us. We need to establish what the right tyre to be on at the right time. But look, we're focused. We have a good plan going into the race. Both our drivers have a look in their eye today, which I like. And looking forward to, I love this circuit. I love Austria. I still look around here and see what Dietrich Mateschitz created, and I find it extraordinary.
Yeah, obviously you're caught up with your Red Bull roots, but just finally then on Nico from 20th, going to be fighting today, you think?
I think we just have to be aggressive all day with him. He's got the right attitude coming into the race, and it's going to be exciting, I think.
We look forward to seeing it. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Chris, your timing was flawless, because you were on television the entire time you were interviewing Jonathan Wheatley. We could see you interviewing him on television. It was perfect timing.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. He's still on TV right now.
I'm just hungry for the cameras, aren't I?
No, it was just...
You made Ted's notebook, by the way.
It was just perfect timing. I loved it. I'm trying to hear what's going on around.
We also nailed it because
go ahead.
I was going to say, we nailed it because it's just about to be the time for the national anthem. So we got that in when everyone else is having to do like a short interview and then go quiet. So I'm going to try and position myself near Christian Horner, who we haven't actually spoken to for a couple of weeks, but also it's so much further back on the grid than we're used to. This could be 3 drivers in succession, 6th, 7th, and 8th. 2 of them outstanding qualifying. 1 of them very disappointing.
Yeah. So, Chris, should we try to sneak in a break now? I don't want to.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, well, let's do that now. Let's get our last break in. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. Okay, checking YouTube. TW says, hit the like button with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many thumbs up that is. That's good, TW. I like the enthusiasm. He said, I already had the shot poured. Oh, well, not going to waste it. Because TW, he's talking about your grid, Bob. Apparently it's a drinking game that they drink every time you get interrupted.
Damn, sorry, everybody.
You ruined everything, Chris. Actually,
No, all those
was-
lonely shots are just sitting there.
it was me because I moved it into segment 2 instead of segment 3. Oh, there's Bill Ricker. He's got his hot cup of coffee that I talked about earlier. Apparently, somebody, who was it earlier, said he was too tired to go get coffee. I said, no, wait a minute.
That raises an interesting question. How's the coffee in the studio? Because in my experience, studio coffee is generally.
I don't know. Can you imagine me on caffeine, Bob? No, I don't drink coffee.
No.
I don't need coffee. My wife has a rule. Many years ago, she says, don't talk to me until I've had at least a half a cup of coffee because I wake up ready to go, ready to ready for action. Let's see.
That you are.
Well, the hills are alive with the sound of school children singing in Austria. That's good.
Hey, Grinny, your picture.
I haven't seen one set of Lederhosen yet. I'm really disappointed.
Your picture behind
there's plenty.
Your background is perfect. That's exactly the images I was talking about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
So thank you for illustrating that.
I got this off our photo thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I wondered if you had figured out how to do that.
Yep.
A+ for you of technology.
Yeah.
Well, because I screwed up because I was getting that while I was getting sorted for the pre-show, and now I'm here in the show and I'm still here. So yeah.
All right, here we go.
I suspected as much.
Yet.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. I drove by the Oracle headquarters, what was the Oracle headquarters, just the other day in Austin. It's on a gorgeous lakefront property in downtown Austin, and they've got a big, tall building. They can probably see Circuit of the Americas. I maintain that's exactly how they became a sponsor of Formula One, because, you know, they sponsor the Red Bull team, is that there was 440,000 people out at COTA, and they could see the action from the top of the Oracle Tower in downtown. That's painting you guys a picture. I have no idea if there's any truth to that, but I'm going to stick to that story because I like it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we just got about 12 minutes before the start of the race, and Chris, the question I was going to ask you, if you're still connected, yes, he is. The question I was going to ask you is, what do you think the grid would have looked like had Gasly not done the very elegantly done double 360 pirouette, as Bob called it? What do you think it would look like? Any different?
I think fairly similar. I'm going to try and ask someone about it in a second, if I can, who would have quite a good picture of that, of one of the cars that's maybe out of position, but I don't know if we can jump straight in with them, which is Christian Horner. So I'm going to dive straight in now if I can. Christian, I've got a question for you. I've just been asked in the studio, how different would the grid have looked if Pierre Gasly had not spun in Q3 yesterday?
For sure, he'd have been in the first two rows. So, he was on for a time that would have been a 4-4, 4-5. So that would have been slightly ahead. But, ifs, buts, and maybes, who knows? The reality is those yellow flag, he lifted with P7 on what was a scrub tire run. So yeah, that's what we've got to deal with today, and we'll do our best to make as much ground as we can.
Yeah, I imagine it would have been a McLaren 1-2 with you guys maybe third then, and able to attack from there. How hard will it be to get up into that fight starting this far back, given the way the car's been performing?
Very hard in, starting from here, because you got, 4 cars between you and the first McLaren. So, it's going to be important, get a good start, get a good first lap, and then don't kill your tires.
Do you have to be a bit more aggressive on strategy as well, trying to get through a few maybe slower cars, or do you expect Liam Lawson to jump up the way?
I think you just got to be versatile. You've got to be flexible to whatever's going on, and sometimes that's aggressive, sometimes it's conservative. So you just got to be, ready to pivot.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how it goes. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad the production team got all that timing laid out perfectly, because that was the way I had it planned out, Chris.
Yeah, no, I could tell. I'd seen your show notes. That did work very nicely. But it has made me go forward as well to Oscar Piastri, who I can't get to directly because he's putting his helmet on. But that's the other place I think that would have been different. It would have been that Piastri would have been on the front row. I don't think he'd have beaten Lando. I think that Lando's first lap time opened up the ability for him to do that brilliant second lap. And I think Oscar, needing to just find a bit of time, he'd have got close to him, but I just don't think he would have taken quite the same liberties because he had positions to gain. He had to get ahead of a Ferrari and potentially get ahead of Verstappen if Verstappen had completed his lap, because he would have crossed the line before Piastri had finished his own. So, there'd have been a bit of work to do, and I think that's why we would have looked at a McLaren 1 too. But I like the way this is set up. Like I said earlier, that if Ferrari can get into the lead here, they will be able to fight. Lando obviously needs to claw back some points to Oscar. He's 22 points behind him. So there's a lot to be done in that sense. There's still pressure on the pole sitter, even if he gets a clean start. Piastri's kind of sat there with a Ferrari to clear, but not much else. I'm going to go Toto Wolff. Toto is hot. Is this bad news for Mercedes?
Yeah, pretty bad news. We like the cool.
But you've been there or thereabouts, but maybe not the main competitor to McLaren this weekend. Were you expecting to be a bit stronger?
Yeah, I think the race is always different, but we've been very strong in Montreal where we won the race and finished P3. But this is an abrasive asphalt and it's very hot, and that's never been our forte.
So what are your targets today? Starting fifth with George. Kimi's further back in ninth, I believe. So what's the aim?
Motor racing, the sun is always different. If I were to say we want to have a podium, it's pretty unrealistic from pure pace, but let's see what it gives.
All right, well, good luck. Oh, and finally, your reaction to another 16 years of this race as a proud Austrian.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. That's right. I forgot to mention that bit of news, but 2041 is the end date for the contract for the Austrian Grand Prix now, the same as the Miami Grand Prix.
Wow.
So I'm going to be coming here till I'm old and grey.
Well, it's a great place to come. I envy you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I actually had that at the top of our show doc and we haven't touched on it yet. But yeah, that's amazing that they have these incredibly long contracts set up for this now. I mean, that was the joke the last time. And it's like,
Well,
how can they commit for so long?
Well, you know better than rest of us, John. Two things. Number one, when Bernie Ecclestone was running Formula One, I think he liked shorter contracts because he could continue to keep raising the fee to bring it to town, and he could see what the future held in terms of new races. But for the current administration under Liberty Media, you build up value in your deal with Formula One. You've got all these contracts with these great races all over the world. If for some reason you wanted to sell up or borrow heavily or whatever, you can plunk these contracts down on the table and tell everybody, look, here's the financial security of the series going forward. Maybe they'll want to borrow to complete the deal to buy MotoGP, which it looks like they're going to do.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bob. Yeah, a long-term contract definitely has value in a borrowing or any other kind of equity situation. So, and that's the other thing. You could argue, it didn't even occur to me, but you could be building up the value of the company to sell the entire company. So
exactly,
who knows?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. But yeah, it looks like that we've got a full green light now for MotoGP for Liberty to buy, because I think the deal was basically done. We were just waiting on the antitrust side from the.
No, it's done. Yep.
Yeah. So it looks like that's all done. So press on the gas.
Think
Liberty.
about that. If they do with the MotoGP that they did with Formula One, we could have more MotoGP in the United States, which would be awesome.
The Tennessee track is what I've been hearing. Greeny, is that what you hear?
Yes. Yeah. That is definitely on the cards, and of course, there's still the opportunity to go back to both Indianapolis and even Laguna Seca, which is now run by Mel Harder, who used to run, of course, COTA.
Yeah, what's the name of that?
Yeah, I've heard the same as Greeny on that front with Flat Rock. But it's Flat Rock. It's a very cool venue. I think they're a bit behind on getting everything open, but I think their target is to get MotoGP in there. I know Joseph Newgarden's also been an ambassador for that track, so maybe that can open some doors to some IndyCar chat as well.
Yeah.
That's the Black Rock track, I think it's called.
It's Flat Rock.
Yeah, and that's another ex-COTA guy, Eric Paradis, who is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I read recently where they called it
all they need is hotels.
FIA Grade 2. I'm not sure of that. Maybe somebody can.
Correct.
Okay. And
correct. Yeah, grade 1 is F1 standards. Grade 2 is F2. I think IndyCar can race for.
Oh, we're losing you, Chris.
Oh dear. I think Chris's bandwidth
We've
has
been
been taken
spoiled.
by all the
We've been
Formula One
spoiled by
teams.
his connection over the last few races. We've been spoiled, but we're losing you right now, Chris. But yeah, let's check in and see what else we got. Oh, I know one thing I want to talk about is George Russell and Max Verstappen and the miniature little silly season we've got going on. Bob, you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, that's a big question. Will Max Verstappen stay with Red Bull or will he explore new territory? Mercedes, the obvious target, but Toto Wolff has been very coy. He says there's a low probability, but as a team principal, it's his obligation really to make sure you've got the best driver lineup you can have. He's kind of talking out both sides of his mouth, saying we have the best driver lineup we could have, but if you have a Max Verstappen out there, what are you going to do? And George Russell has been extremely patient and graceful during this whole thing, or gracious, I should say. And but he seems to be getting a little impatient, as we talked about yesterday with Chris on our post-qualifying show. George seems to be trying to put a little pressure on Mercedes to quit talking and start signing contracts.
Yeah.
Well, and the truth is, it's actually very coyly Russell that made this public. But we all know now that Toto wanted, when Lewis left for Ferrari, he came after Verstappen pretty strongly last year, and he's doing it again. And it was Russell who said, well, he's in talks with Verstappen.
Yeah, it's all very interesting as everybody tries to find leverage, as you typically do in these contract situations. The last shot that was fired, I think, was talk about George Russell eyeing a second seat at Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, yeah.
Hey, Chris, I want to ask you.
Yes.
What about Alex Dunn being disqualified from the feature race? Uh-oh. We're still having trouble with your connection, Chris.
Yeah. That's the Alex Dunn, the Irish F2 driver who made his Formula One debut in Lando Norris's McLaren on Friday morning and did very well. Finished P6 in the session, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, we're losing you, buddy. But yeah, I just saw a tweet from Formula 2 11 minutes ago. Breaking news: Alex Dunn has been disqualified from the Spielberg race, from the feature race, and so he loses his P2, and all the cars finished behind him, moving up one position. So that is a big deal, and I'm not sure they haven't said why. So this was just moments ago. Yeah, yeah, maybe underweight or something after the inspection post race. But we got a couple minutes left. Any other stories before we get to our predictions? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Let's see. We talked all about the grid and how we ended up. Bob caught us up to speed on all of that. One thing I was going to ask when Toto Wolff was on is about the power unit. That story you put in, Bob, about the power unit reliability issues with Mercedes.
Yeah, Toto came to the defense of Mercedes. Of course, they've had some breakdowns. Kimi Antonelli's had car problems twice, and there have been some others out there. Toto originally started by saying, well, some of those were chassis problems. It wasn't the engine. But then he kind of admitted, yeah, things are going wrong with the engines. And maybe it's not a surprise because everybody, of course, is pushing to the extreme in Formula One. And Mercedes, he implied, has already taken their eye off the ball, and they're watching. They're working on 2026 right now, and that's what the 2025 engines, if you will, are basically. You got what you got. There aren't going to be engine tweaks between now and then. And if something goes wrong, they got to figure out what it is quickly, because they do supply 4 teams. And if there's something, a batch problem or whatever, they got to get to the bottom of it quickly, despite the limited resources.
Well, we have to keep an eye on that. All right, we got about a minute left, less than that. We got to get our predictions in. I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to say that Lando Norris soars after he wins, followed by his teammate Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton on the podium. All right, Bob, what about you?
I agree with Norris and Piastri. They've just been too good this weekend. But I'm going to go with the other Ferrari and say Charles Leclerc.
Johnny Green
is on the podium.
I'm going to go Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Max Verstappen.
And Chris Medland, do we have your microphone? Do we have a connection? Oh, we've lost him. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, Chris Medland. Stick right where you are. Listen to the race and then follow us afterwards, immediately after for a post race. Thanks for tuning in.